All right, we are live. Um, so I guess the biggest news today, this afternoon, it was announced that Georgia will be taking on Georgia Tech uh, Black Friday, Friday after Thanksgiving, at 7:30 primetime ABC. Um, I know I texted you whenever the news came out. We both agreed that we liked it. A lot of people did not like it.
Hmm.
Um, in the Georgia fan base, which I can bang the table on them. But the main point that a lot of people had, and I think is a fair point, was that high school football games that's the semifinal games. That's a huge week uh, for high school football, and that's a major staple in the state of Georgia. So um, I think probably I would have to guess probably those high school games get moved to Saturday.
Could
I
be.
wouldn't, I wouldn't be shocked if that happens,
Yeah.
and I think it would be good because honestly, I also have the Iron Bowl. I can't really think of any other game. Maybe the
Just
Michigan
yeah, that's true.
Ohio State game. I'm gonna watch the high school games.
I'm
So
certainly going to be flipping. You know what I mean?
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead and give you your thoughts, and I'll talk more about it.
No, I do. But I also one other take that I'll have to say. If I'm tech and I'm their PR people, I would be saying this is a result of us being much more of a competitive program than we have been over the last whatever number of years. That we can at least get a prime time game on Black Friday. From a tradition standpoint, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not sure I'm 100% on this, but it has been played on this. It's been played on Black Friday before in the history of Georgia Tech, correct?
That's what I was going to talk about. So yeah, this game, especially in the '90s, was played a bunch. It was played on Thanksgiving a few times.
Yeah, I remember, man.
It has been played on Thanksgiving in the '60s, '70s, '50s, '40s. I'm sure probably even in the '30s. I didn't go back that far, but it has been played on Thanksgiving, and it's been played on Fridays after Thanksgiving. I think the last time it was played on a Friday, Thanksgiving was '95. And by the way, Kirby Smart, we got an interception that game. So, yeah, and that was played in Sanford Stadium. That's the last Georgia game that was played on a weekday inside Sanford Stadium.
Really
Yeah,
interesting fun fact. There you go.
that's what
Um,
I'm for.
um, that's interesting. I did not know that. So
I think the Georgia Tech rivalry has absolutely dipped in its importance and and its hatred, really. And that has nothing to do with what Georgia has done. It's
no.
everything that Tech has done. And some people who are not like Mike Griffith. Again, my AJC axe wielding is really heavy lately. He was like, I don't even know why Georgia Tech play. It should be Georgia Clemson. That's great, Mike. I
Great
much
invitation, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I care way more about the Georgia Tech rivalry than uh, Clemson and Georgia. It means a little bit more used to, and that I'm a traditionalist. I think
Well, maybe
moving it.
you are more than I am because I would say Clemson, Georgia. I mean I know it's generational and you're probably an anachronism, right? But
Right.
I think most people I would much rather play have Clemson on our schedule. But I will say this, not to interrupt your train of thought, but
Yeah.
um, I do think it could be a much more interesting, could be a much more interesting rivalry than it has been. I
Uh,
think Brent Key might be the solution for that. We'll see a small sample size, but I think that they were better in the age of transfers. I think they hit a home run with that quarterback.
yeah,
So,
that's being good.
and I think as much as I hate Tech, I kind of like to see he has an attitude, and I think Kirby respects him. There's a lot of overlap, obviously,
Right, Buster Faulkner.
past. So, it'll be interesting. I don't mind. I think there's something special about it and different. But I think Black Friday at 7 o'clock, I think that's fantastic.
Well,
Why would people not like it? I'm
I don't
curious.
know. I think it's really short-sighted, and I think people are really stupid, honestly, that are seeing the negatives on this. The positive is this: Georgia's going to be on the national stage. The entire country is going to watch. They don't even have NFL football games, and people are going to watch football, especially this time of year, coming late down the track. That's going to put Georgia on the national spotlight, and it's going to the most traditional rival that we have. So that to me is a big thing, and you're going to display Athens because I would imagine. I mean, I don't know what the point spread would be right now. I would guess it's close to 20,
I
right?
was at 17 if I just had to throw a number out there.
Right. It's going to be a 3 touchdown thing. So you're going to display the University of Georgia, the football team, the campus, the atmosphere. ABC is going to be probably the lead crew is probably going to be Herb Street and Fowler. That is a mega advertisement for the university to get more recruits.
Great point.
I think
Yeah.
that's a positive. Here's the other positive. That gives us a 1 day extra rest compared to everyone else who's going to be playing on Saturday for the SEC championship game. That to me is the biggest factor.
Yeah.
You get 1 more day of rest. You get 1 more day on your competition. It should benefit Georgia because I think we all expect Georgia to be in Atlanta this year. I think if that didn't happen, I think we'd all be very disappointed in the season. So there's another positive. So like you said, it adds a little bit more to the rivalry. It makes it a little bit more special that it has its own day. It's on display, kind of like Ole Miss and Mississippi State. I
Yeah.
don't I don't care who wins that game or not. I know that there's going to be a fight, and they
Or
really
something crazy happens, right?
going to happen. And I enjoy that, and I like the Egg Bowl a lot. And I watch it every year. And this year, sadly, it's gonna be on Black Friday. It's gonna be the lead-in for the Georgia Tech game. So I think those are all the positives. It was getting stale with being a noon kickoff on a Saturday. It
Yeah.
was right during the
That was
Georgia.
rough after Thanksgiving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's no one on campus. Going, especially I guess last year or 2 years ago. It was in Sanford Stadium. Wow. I went and it didn't have a lot of juice. I mean, you could tell Georgia was sleepwalking in that game. Like it was bad. That first, if you go back and you look, that first quarter, Georgia just sleptwalked it. And maybe a Friday 7:30 kick. They have all day to dwell on it. Maybe they don't come out as flat and sleepwalk through Tech and just beat the fuck out of them, which I enjoy, and I think every Georgia fan should. So I think it's good. I don't have a problem with it. It adds a little extra flavor.
Right. No, totally agree.
On that point, we were talking about it overall because a lot of the schedule has been the times have been released. Hold on, I'll pull them up. So Georgia and Clemson is going to be the ABC game. It's going to be at noon. That's not a Georgia problem. That's a Clemson problem. Thanks, Dabo. Georgia's going to be on ABC. I mean, a ton. They're going to be the premier. And people want to complain about not having night games. Well, get ready because almost every Georgia game is going to be a night game. Georgia, Kentucky, we got to go up to Lexington. That's the third week of the season. That's a 7:30 kick. Alabama, got to go to Tuscaloosa. That's a 7:30 kick. November 2nd, the cocktail party. That's at 3:30 at its normal time, the way God intended it. And obviously, Tech is going to be on ABC again. So Georgia's going to be on ABC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and then potentially the Tennessee game is going to be on ABC. I would imagine probably a 7:30 kick.
I would too.
And then the Georgia Ole Miss game is probably going to be a 7:30 ABC game. So Georgia's going to be in the limelight the entire season. And let's not even we forgot the Texas.
Texas, yeah.
So Georgia's going to be on ABC 10 times on prime time.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's nuts. But you're going to see Georgia's going to be like a Georgia now, which is kind of crazy to think about, is up there with a Notre Dame, a USC, Ohio
Alabama.
State, Alabama,
Yeah.
prime time, must watch TV for the entire country, which is crazy considering where we were at 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I know you and I have talked about this, and that I don't want to belabor the point, but I remember you and I talking when Mark Rick. I think I know I like Mark Rick, but and I don't want to go back in the ancient history, but thought he was a good coach. But I thought he'd gotten us to exactly where we were always going to be. And I told you whenever they hired Kirby Smart exactly what I thought the program could be,
Yeah.
and it has under Kirby, to his credit, that's the reason he's got the biggest contract, right?
Yeah.
It has materialized.
Life.
Say that again.
I mean, he's got a contract for life.
Should. Honestly, it's material as long as he produces like he or even anywhere close to it. So well deserved, and it's exactly where I thought Georgia should be. Doesn't mean that we can't lose it and we can't screw up. So we got to be diligent, all those sorts of things. But it is a unique era that Georgia's in right now. So yeah,
I totally agree. And then we were talking about this, and I think this is an interesting point for Georgia fans. The second game of the season, the first game at home, September 7th, by the way, I'm looking at it right now, is Tennessee Tech. That's an ESPN Plus game. I don't know 100%, but my guess would be that you're not going to be able to watch it on because I know on what. Go ahead and go with your point before I start rambling into nothing.
no, I think this is where we're going to end up going more and more on some of these. If you want to watch these games, and it's going to become very complicated to do, and guys like me are just going to be like, older people are just going to be like, screw this. They need to make these. I mean, I don't understand why they're not making them accessible and streaming and going through all these different steps.
Yeah.
And you said, well, and I think it's a valid point. It's you live in Athens, obviously, and you said, well, for all these steps that we have to go through, I'd rather just go to the game and be able to finish the game. This starts at 2:00 by 4:35, which on an early autumn evening in downtown Athens is a fantastic time. I'd rather just pay the $40 to get in, watch the game, walk uptown afterwards. I don't disagree with that, but people who are in the metro Atlanta area, the traffic and the all-day event, it just becomes a lot.
I totally agree, but I mean, here's the thing: it is. I rather go through all the hoops. If I lived, let's say I lived in Sandy Springs, I rather pay the $40 because and get decent seats underneath the underhang, not get burned. That's the key if you're going to a Georgia game
early September for sure, and also what sideline you're on.
Yep, don't get burned. Stay underneath the underhang and watch till about the third quarter. I rather fight all that traffic. If you get up early enough, you're not going to deal with it. Fight the traffic, watch the game, and then go uptown, have a beer responsibly, and then either make a decision on, okay, well, what games are on, what time do I need to be back home, and you can let a ton of the traffic go by and get home at a reasonable hour. I think
reasonable, but by that time, primetime games are kicking off, and you're having to dial in the radio to find those on your way home.
yeah, but to me that
Beat
doesn't
for all day, and then you go to bed like me.
Well, and that doesn't bother me because you got so many hoops just to get onto the streaming of ESPN Plus.
Oh, I agree with that.
The shitty announcers, and you're going to watch this game with no juice. You're not going to be an attendant. There's no feeling that you get, and you're just the product is terrible, and I think Georgia and the rest of the SEC, I think they do. I think they're okay with putting these games on ESPN Plus because they know a lot of the alumni who are older don't really want to fuck with getting ESPN Plus, so they'll spend the $100 overall the whole day in Athens,
Right.
just watch the ball game and just be there. And I think that's
Yeah.
a pretty good idea, especially given where we're going with the NCAA and not existing anymore.
Well, the other thing I would just add quickly is that, as much as I was bitching about driving over there an hour and a half, getting in traffic, I'm going to do it, right?
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's why. And then also for people who are a student of history and enjoy these type of things like I do and are a nerd and look back on this, Georgia traditionally would play its home games at 2:00. That started. It might have started under Wally Butts. Not 100% sure, but I know Dooley definitely. It was 2:00 kicks, 1:30 or 2. There was that, and that was like the big time games were at 2:00, and that's because they could control the time. And SEC teams had their different staple of what time, like LSU. That's why they always play a night game. LSU was the first one to do that. Alabama, I believe, was at 3:30. So they all have their staples. Georgia was always at 2. So I think we're going to see these cupcake games, especially now that the SEC basically controls the broadcasting rights of ABC and ESPN. You're going to see a lot more of Georgia playing cupcake games at 2:00. There's noon games are essentially dead.
Well, one quick point on that, and a lot of people may know this, but I have heard, and I think that sounds reasonable, that the reason Dooley liked playing the early games, it gave people from South Georgia the opportunity to come into the game, still be able to leave early enough to make it to church the next morning. So,
Right.
and that could be the same thing. Hey, you're interested in Georgia, and we're playing one of these cupcake games. You're living in Fitzgerald, Georgia. Drive on out and see it, and you can still get home that night.
Yeah, you can get home by 8:00.
Right.
Yeah, and that I think is a good move by the university. And but there's going to be a day. I don't know when that day is, but sometime in the future where there's not going to be Georgia games are not going to be on broadcast television. So we're all going to have to prepare ourselves now. I don't know when that is. That could be 10 years down the line or 15. Who knows? But there is going to be a day where we're going to have to jump through all those hoops just to watch Georgia and Tennessee.
Brave new world, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't care for it. So that I think that wraps up the schedule talk and what's going on. Obviously, if there's any more news on it, we'll talk about it. We got a long time. We got like 90 something days left. Oh wow, there'll be a lot to talk about. All right, I guess moving forward, let's talk about the SEC meetings down in Destin. Paul Feinbaum has a great tan going. They're in Myanmar Beach. Everyone's hanging out, having a good time.
How do you say it?
I don't even Miramar.
Miramar, right outside of Destin. Miramar.
Miramar. Whatever. Hang out at Crab Island and go to the donut hole. Anyway, so talk about that. Give us your thoughts on it, and you can lead the discussion.
Well, I think one of the first things that I thought was interesting, Kirby and even Lane Kiffin said it. He's kind of looked upon now as a thought leader, and I think that's pretty impressive. And I think we're lucky to get him once again, and have him. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. The other takeaway, big news coming out of that, I guess, or leading into it, was Kirby was like, "Hey, that Rashada deal, this lawsuit outside my bubble. I'm not dealing with it. He told me about it. It's outside my bubble," which tells me Kirby plays fair, but he You know what I mean? Like he's got knives out. He's fucking throwing elbows out there, which is the way he played, which I appreciate the shit out of that. I really
Yeah,
do.
I totally
Me,
agree.
me and Billy talk all the time. That sound like you know what that sound like a
Yeah,
Steve Spurrier thing to me.
yeah,
And so he's got a lot of that in him where he's super competitive on stuff like that. So I appreciate having Kirby there representing us. The other big news, I guess, is the what was it? The AD for Texas
yeah.
was
Chris,
talking about how much better the Texas Oklahoma rivalry was than anything the SEC had or whatever. And yeah, and then trying to back away from it in a political. I didn't. Y'all are throwing sauce on this thing. Now we heard what you said, bro. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like,
So I dislike Texas a lot, and I think whenever Georgia and Texas play each other, I think if you watch these videos and listen to this podcast, it'll be full on display that week. Texas has the arrogance and confidence of an Alabama with a trophy case of like a Penn State and the tradition of a Penn State. They really aren't that great. They have a couple national championships. And hey, if Pete Carroll doesn't go for it on 4th and 1 with the lead, either they get that first down or Pete Carroll decides to punt the ball. USC is a national champion, and Texas hadn't won a national championship since the 1970s. So good job. Wonderful. Uh, Texas is just the Texas and Oklahoma, they're going to have a hard time adjusting to this conference. And everyone's picking Texas to be in Atlanta, and they very well could be in Atlanta. I highly doubt it, but they could be. But there's going to be a game, and both of these teams are going to face it when you're expected to win, and you got another game ahead of you that's a bigger game, and then you're
you're
going
on
to
the
get
road.
you're on the road. It might not be it might not be an intimidating place, but it's a hell of a lot more intimidating than fucking Kansas and wherever the fuck they play. And you got to go, and then you get your ass beat. It's going to happen. And they are really confident because they ran the Big 12. You don't run the Big 12. You're on equal footing. It's not just beat Alabama and Georgia. That's not the SEC. Because if you go and look at the draft, Mississippi State wasn't a really good football team. Guess what? They had 6 guys drafted. And you go, whoa, Mississippi State wasn't that good. Well, they got 6 guys to the NFL.
Right.
So the level of competition is going to step up, and I think they're going to be in for a shock, especially the grind of day to day. So they can talk all the shit that they want. I don't think they're going to have like Josh Pate said it. I'm sorry, I'll end it with this. Josh Pate said it. SEC fans that are like the South Carolinas of the world, they're like, oh, you don't know about the SEC. You're going to get your ass beat. When really South Carolina is going to take a step down because Texas and Oklahoma are joining. So they're going to go back into the bus. And Texas and Oklahoma are going to take their spot. And Texas and Oklahoma think, the role, all they have to do is beat Alabama and Georgia, and then they're going to be the top dog. It's not how this thing works. And I think it's twofold. I think you're going to look at the season, and Texas might have 2 losses or 3 losses, and Oklahoma, I don't know. They might be not as good as everyone thinks. I think Oklahoma's going to be bad. So it's going to be interesting first year for sure.
Yeah, so I don't hate Texas as much as you do. But I can see why one would hate Texas, and I'm starting to become more and more familiar. For the AD to come out when you're just joining a league, why not be silent and carry a big stick? You know what I mean? Like, hey, really glad to be joining the best something instead of making a target on your back. Number one, number two, I think exactly what you said. The grind of what a SEC, like go into Columbia right on a Saturday night at 8:00, sandstorm.
Yeah.
Okay. And then go and play Knoxville. I don't know what their schedule is. I don't give a shit. I'm using this as a hypothetical. Then go next week to play Tennessee up in Knoxville and come back home and play A&M. Okay, all right. Now we're playing in the big boy league, and you can run a gauntlet like that in the Southeastern Conference. They have never experienced that.
No.
Will they catch up? I think Texas might because
Texas
they got
is in a better position to catch up. But given how they play, I don't know if it's going to if it will translate. We'll see.
They'll adapt. I guarantee you. I guarantee you they will. That's just how the system's going to work.
Well, I mean, they could. It's great. Whatever. Texas, look, they are. This is the problem. Like my hatred was really held way long ago for Texas, but the Sugar Bowl when Georgia lost to them, Georgia should have been in the playoff that year. They had a bunch of dudes quit on that Georgia team, and I mean that's kind of why now the messaging at Georgia has changed. Kirby even said that was a point in the program where things changed and the messaging changed. So I appreciate Texas doing what they did, but Georgia wasn't really looking forward to playing that game, and you could absolutely tell the way they played that game. They weren't there, and Texas barely won that game. And then they go and they jack off and they go, "Oh, we're back," Sam Ellinger and all. You won a meaningless bowl game, and you haven't done shit since. And then you got into the playoff this year or last year purely based on politics. I mean, purely based on politics. If you didn't play Alabama, you wouldn't have been in there. Sorry, I hate it for you. You lost a terrible game.
If they hadn't played and beaten Alabama.
Yes.
Okay.
And look, and Alabama was a whole different team back then, but we're not going to relitigate that. Georgia should have been over on Texas. But okay, great. You get in. Wonderful. You're supposed to be the SEC. We don't lose to Pac-12 teams. And we have all these great defensive linemen that I heard all about all last offseason, but how great your fucking defensive line was and how great your defense was. SEC, we don't lose to Pac-12 teams. We don't lose to Washington's. And y'all did. And really, you had no business in that game either because Washington whipped your ass on both sides of the scrimmage, offense and defensive line. And Washington's offensive line was tiny as fuck. And you're going to go – that's not even average SEC lineman. And you have this great defensive line I heard about. You're going to be in a rude awakening, and you think you're really good. You're in a really, really rude awakening, and I cannot wait.
You know, what I say is that's the reason we play the game, and I tend to agree with you. But you know what they're starting to remind me of? I had no reason to hate them because they weren't in our conference. I never paid that much attention to them because they're not that important. They think they are. And that's what the analogy that I make with Texas fans so far from what I've seen is Tennessee fans.
No.
They are Tennessee fans.
Yes.
Okay.
They're not as fucking crazy. Like Tennessee celebrated I have to go look, but they celebrated like winning a championship for like some non-revenue sport, and they're like, "We're an everything school. Where's Georgia?" That's great, guys. All that matters is football, especially down here. They're not as crazy, they're not as nuts, but they are the same delusion.
Delusional. That's where I'm going.
They're on the same footing with Tennessee. They're flirting with Vol Twitter. Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. That's about where they're at. So,
and plus, the damn Bevo tried to rape Uga. So
we're not doing that again. Whenever we go down to Austin, Uga is going to be secured.
Yeah.
So, here and. Kirby being the lead, back on that real quick. I think Kirby being the lead and the lead voice in the room is a good thing. Hopefully we get the benefits that Nick Saban got with like SEC officials being in our pocket. That'd be nice.
Yeah, it would.
So we've been fucked enough. We'll take it. So that's important. And I think also Kirby's going to try to get as much tradition as possible kept in college football. He really doesn't like the. I don't know if you saw the press conference, but some idiot reporter, I don't know who, asked him about the NFL schedule, make it more like a pro schedule. I think Kirby just embarrassed him. He was like, "What does that mean?" And then it was long pause. And and the guy's like, well, more free agency. He goes, well, we don't have that. What do you mean? And the guy's point was adapt more to the NFL, become more NFL like. And Kirby basically stopped him, was like, yeah, no, this is college football, not pro football. There's a difference. And keeping walk-ons. So I think, and that to me is the most important. And I know that's the least important on the agenda, but I think that's an important aspect of college football. So we're gonna have somebody in the room that's going to try to keep as much tradition as they can,
Right.
and adapt to the current age of football. I think it'll be good for not only Georgia selfishly, but also for college football as a whole.
No, I think that's one of the things. Lane. It's funny. Lane Kiffin and Kirby strike me as two polar opposite like personalities. And you got Mike Bobo. Mike Bobo and Kirby, everybody knows, are tied best man. And I think one was
Best
best
man
man.
at both weddings. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing I would tell you: if you got Kirby leading the way, I think one of the criteria Kirby has for being your friend is, do you love college football and do you love football? Number one, do you love college football? And are you in it for the right reasons? And so I think he's going to be, I think he's a protector of that kind of stuff. I totally agree. And his mentors, if you think about it, Joe Kynes, Jim Donnan, Ray Goff, Nick Saban, Vince Dooley.
Yeah, Vince Dooley,
Bobby Bowden. Yeah. Mark Rick, exactly. So I feel like if he is going to be the one with gravitas when he walks into the room, I feel like college football stands a chance, and that some of this shit will get addressed over time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So let's close it up here. We should probably either not this week, but next week, talk about all the shit that's going on with the NCAA and these settlements. But there's so much smoke right now. I gotta wait till everything clears because I have no idea what's really going on. We are in now. We're at the point, and this is just closing, and then we'll end this. I don't want to drag on too long, but we're at the point now where either college players are going to be employees of the university, and then they can collect a bargain, and then they revenue share, and then they can strike, and who pays what, and then do universities pay more? How does Title IX factor into all that? Or they're independent contractors. How does that work? We're at the point where something's going to have to be done legally. I'm not smart enough to figure all that shit out. I don't think you are either. So it's probably what's going to end up happening is we're going to have to get an act of Congress to say, hey, college athletes are a different thing, and this is how these things go.
Yeah.
But that's the only thought I have. So I know probably people that are watching this are like, well, are they going to talk about it? I'm not till I know more, because I'm as lost as everyone else is, and I have no idea where this is gonna. Go.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I have no idea. Honestly, I haven't studied it that much because I know it's going to be hung up in the courts and all that kind of stuff forever. We'll see where it plays out. Tuberville's up there. I think Nick Saban has the ear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, him and Tommy, they've been working together. Nick Saban's gone up to Congress 3 times. He's going up for a 4th.
Yeah, I think behind the scenes, this whole different segment could be done. It's going to be really interesting to see. I think Saban is working behind the scenes to maybe because that's one of the reasons he left, right?
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
he's going to try to clean some of this stuff up. I really do, and he's going to
He
get
needs to
Congress to do it.
which I don't like, but
I don't either, but
yeah,
shit, man. I don't know. I don't know. I'm with you.
something's got to be done because college football could be
Ruined.
destroyed
Yeah.
very easily because it's a unique thing. It doesn't exist anywhere else. It exists in a vacuum. So we got to figure that out. Anyway, all right, that's another time to worry about. We'll probably talk about it next week, hopefully, whenever more things are cleared up. Check out, we are on TikTok now. We are part of the trend, baby. So Terminus Sports _ ATL on TikTok. Give us a follow. I have no idea what exactly content we're going to do, but we're going to do something. So enjoy. Twitter, Terminus Sports _ ATL. Again, on there, been a lot of people. I've had some mean comments. My feelings have not been hurt yet. And then obviously, type up on Google. You can type up Terminus Sports or Terminus Sports ATL. It'll pop up either way. Have a blog up. The website is under construction right now, but you can still find all the blogs and everything that I've written and read some more stuff. I'm writing one tonight about the Georgia Tech rivalry and what the basically what we talked here, but a little bit more in depth. For your shipping needs, go to Unishippers Atlanta and ask for
Pat Limpassy. He needs all the help he can get.
All right, and that's a Missouri guy. So as for Pat, say go Tigers. I don't know. Is it go Tigers?
Go.
It's Mizou. That's what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. So go tell them that. Also Unishippers presenting sponsor, the lead sponsor of this beautiful podcast. I need to put a banner for it. Anyway. All right. We will see you on the other side.